Hello, and thank you for joining me today on socktv. We're running a little late today, but that's okay. While I was searching for Ron, I was perfecting a technique that I want to teach you. Just a minute. Let me check my file cabinet. Does anybody want to learn how to make a glove with fingers? This is major, people. Ron doesn't seem to see the big deal. Okay, so I've been off teaching and learning. It is like a bicycle glove. You could put fingers all the way on it if you wanted to, but I haven't gotten that far yet. Okay, so while I was searching for Ron this morning, look here, this is what I made. Ron goes, "What's that?" when he got here. I didn't clobber him, but I thought about it. So, this is what I made. Now I'm going to show you how I made it. How's that sound? First of all, since I am just practicing, or I was just practicing, what I did was I just cast on with some yarn, and this is only a practice. This will never be a glove, okay? Everybody needs to understand that you need to practice this before you decide to make a glove out of your good project yarn. Ask me how I know. Okay, so I'm going to make the hand part. This is simulating the hand. Now, I want to bring in, and this is big too, got to have highly contrasting sock yarn, or waist yarn, I mean. Highly contrasting, okay? Here I am using the contrabanded yarn carrier. I'm going to hold both these two up so that both yarns knit on that needle. And I am going to okay, let me reiterate. We're just pretending that we've already made the cuff and the thumb gusset and the hand portion. Okay, we're going to start right here because this is just practice. So all I'm doing is, I made my hand portion, I'm scrapping all the way off, okay? So here is my project. Pretend there's a thumb gusset hanging out right there, okay? Now, this is a 60 cylinder. Did I tell you I haven't written this pattern out yet? Because it's going to be lengthy, because you have to have different numbers for different cylinders. So far I've done it on a 64, a 60, and a 54. I did it on the 48, but I didn't do it right, so I have to redo it again. So what we have to do on the 60 cylinder, or any of the cylinders, we're going to make our thumb and our hand, and we're going to scrap off the whole thing. Now, we have to get all these fingers wrapped around with this many stitches. We don't get any more. So we have to be creative about how we get more stitches. All right. So the first thing you need to remember is to make the first finger, wherever you made your thumb, you need to make the first finger right there over the thumb hole, or your glove ain't gonna fit. Bet you'll only do that once. All right, so I'm going to hang this first stitch, and I would like to hang it without the waist yarn getting in the way. All right, I did it. Now, for the first finger, I'm going to use 17 needles. I'm going to raise the other ones, or else remove these needles from the cylinder. I'm going to raise them as I can. Actually, let's just do that whole process again. There we go. Now I can raise them. I know I told you guys I was going to do the bumblebee at half pitch and make a sock hat, but guess what? I sold all my bumblebees. I have to wait for them to build more. How about that? When we get another bumblebee in, I will teach you how to make a full pitch hat. I'm sorry, a half pitch hat. So what I want to do, and this is important, you guys have to remember that you want to make that middle stitch, the one that's over the thumb, right there where the finger is aligned with it. So I'm taking some stitches from one side and some stitches from the other. Now on a 60 cylinder, I'm going to use 17 needles from here. From my project, okay? And I want to use 8 on one side and 7 on the other, however that adds up, 9 on the other. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's my middle stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 14. Here's 15. 16. Raise this needle because we're not going to be using it. And 17. Now, we are going to be using it. Let's put that needle back to work. Now, creatively, we have to, and this is where you're really going to have to get in close. I have to make 2 stitches out of what's here already. Can you see this bar right here? See where my hook is? I am taking the mother of this last needle, it's the bar that's right over it, and I'm grabbing it and stealing it and making another stitch. I can't just pull that stitch from thin air. Now I'm going to take this bar and pull it over here. Okay? That way I'll give myself 2 extra stitches to get around the thumb. Now some might call that stealing. Get it? We're stealing some stitches. All right, it's early. I was up late last night watching politics. Yes, I was. Yes. Okay, so now this is going to be this finger right here. This one right here. Remember, here's where I scrapped off on all. We're going to do this finger right here. Now, we all know that I'm a little bit lazy in the fact that I don't like to weave in all these tails. So I'm going to pick up that tail, and I went just a hair too far. Get that in there, get that in there. You'll also notice one other thing that I'm doing on this project. I'm not going to use my heel spring on these fingers because I want as little tension as possible, because if I make them tighter, they're not going to reach all the way around my finger. All right. So I've got my tail, and I've got my finger yarn, and go 1 row. Now, it doesn't take a whole lot of weight on this project. So I'm going to put my V-hook in there with 1 stem weight so that I can hand tension. This is my 2nd row. Now on my 3rd row, remember I'm lazy. On my 3rd row, I am going to pull in this tail, and I'm going to knit it together with the project yarn so that I don't have to worry about that tail to weave in. Okay, that's on row 3. Oh my. So my yarn just broke, but nothing really happened. It was like it was just a piece of yarn. It stopped and then it started. So how about that for unexpected? I'll finish that row. I'll bring my yarn in again. Boy, I'm glad I wasn't just whizzing by and not paying attention. Otherwise, I could have lost my finger. But then since I scrapped off and basically essentially put myself a lifeline in, I could just rip this finger off and do the whole thing again. But I don't want you guys to have to Watch that. So, actually it wouldn't be a bad learning tool. I'm just going to do the same thing here. This is row 4, 5, back to 6. Let's go ahead and knit this tail in there with it. And if it looks terrible when we get this finger off, we'll just take the finger out and redo it. Okay, so I'm going to pull that tight. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, if I knew how many rows my first finger was, I can make it the whole finger. Okay? So far, I haven't gotten that far. So what I'm going to do is cut my yarn here. I'm going to drop this tail down in here. I don't want to knit it together because that's what I'm going to use to bind that finger off and sew down the seam. Okay? Then I am going to bring in my waste yarn. Thread it through. Let that first stitch make sure it catches. Now, since it's waste yarn, I don't care if the tension is tight on this or not, but I am going to take this first stitch, and you have to pull the project yarn and the waste yarn, but I'm going to go ahead and tuck that first stitch so it's not tight. All right, or so it is tight. You understand. If you're at the point where you can make a glove, which is really not that hard. Is anybody out there? Does anybody get what I'm doing? We have to wait 30 seconds for you guys to respond. Dee, 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 dee. Okay, so first finger. Extra stitches, extra rows. We stole them. All right, can you see that? Ron? Anybody? You awake? He's so worried about mowing. All right, so here's our first finger. Well, guess what? Here is our second finger. He's not in there, so I have to do my own. Here, that's my own close-up. That's our second finger. So here's what I'm going to do. I kind of do my blue mark as my middle needle just because it's a handy way to reference it. So what I want to do, watch this carefully. I'm going to take the first I'm taking the first stitch that's next to the finger, and I was trying to do it at a different color so that you guys could see it clearly. Get this junk out of my way, get finger number 1 out of my way, and I'm going to take the first stitch on this side. Okay, and I'm going to put those right next to each other. Now this is the part I just figured out. I need to keep these 2 stitches very, very carefully. He's checking the GoPro camera. So I'm going to do, and for the first finger we did 17 stitches. We stole the 2. The second finger, this finger right here, go back in there so I can show them this finger right here. This finger right here is going to be 16 stitches. The ring finger is going to be 16 stitches, And the pinky is going to be 11 stitches, but we're going to add 2. So the first finger is 17, but I add 2, so that's 19. This finger is 16, but I add 2, so we're gonna hang 8 stitches from this side and 8 stitches from this side, so that we have 16. Then we're gonna steal 2, so it's gonna be 18. The ring finger is 16, we're gonna steal 2. The pinky is 11, we're gonna steal 2. You better take notes because I don't have this pattern written out yet. Okay, 1, 2 on each side. Here's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Going to steal this stitch to make my 9th one on that side. Alrighty. So I have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to add, stealing the stitch, the bar, okay. So now, if I have these 2 fingers, I want to anchor them to where I really have a good solid anchor in between the fingers. Right there. Okay? This is how I'm going to anchor them because I needed all these stitches. I don't want to hang 1 stitch on 2 needles, or 2 stitches on 1 needle. Sorry, I got that backwards. This is what I just figured out while Ron was gone missing this morning. I'm going to take the bar from that stitch and the bar from this stitch, and that's going to give us extra room on that finger. Okay, but that's going to also anchor that really close because when you sew down the seam, you're going to have to do a little anchoring too with your tail, but this will make it very, very securely fastened that it's not going to come undone. Okay, so I want to get these stitches down as close as I possibly can. It's not easy because there's waste yarn in the way. Here, nose cam. See, there's waste yarn in the way. So I'm going to go real slow on this first row, but I can't hold the camera. Go real slow, tension my yarn, talk to you guys. You talk about multitasking. Whew. All right, so I'm going to come right around here, bring my yarn in. Okay, oops, got to put some weight on. All right, now I'm going to make sure that these stitches knit. These 3 did not because there was so much junk in the way. So I'm going to knit them manually. Okay. So that was row number 1. Row number 2. Pull this up tight and we're going to knit this back in with this. Get this all ready to knit. Didn't leave myself a very long tail. Row 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The other reason, I'm not just being lazy when I'm knitting these things together. I just want to get as few, when I get this finished, all I have hanging down is the 4 pieces of yarn that I'm going to use to finish those fingers, okay? I don't want 9 million pieces of yarn in my way, making me confused. It's so easy to get me confused. Okay. So now I can use my heel spring just to scrap off of this finger. Pull these 2 tight so that stitch knits. I'm going to grab this one over here so it knits again. Get that tail out of the way too. Okay, the other thing I want you to notice when I'm doing this, back and forth, look, I'm hand tensioning even though I have my tensioner on. Okay, the other thing I'm doing is I'm cutting these tails really short. Again, it's because I don't want to have so much junk hanging off of this project when I finish it. There's enough finished work as it is. I don't want to create any more, and I want to keep it nice and separated. So there's our first 2 fingers. What do you think about that? Let's look where this one, you really can't tell where we had to knit 2 together so many times. Remember when our yarn broke? So I'm not going to take these fingers off. But there again, if I mess this finger up, if something wasn't right, all I'd have to do is undo this, undo that, and I'm back to where I started because I did make this lifeline. Okie dokie, let's go to finger number 3. This finger. It's not near as much fun as this finger. I just wanted to do this finger one more time. So I'm going to grab the first bar that has not been knit. Okay. And grab it from this side. Wait a minute, you got to be careful how you grab it, because this one is going to go the other way. And that's just going to help us. And then I'm going to grab the first yarn that hasn't been knit on that side. Okay. You see how I'm going the other way now? Okay, and that is so that we can have less bunk when we hang these stitches. So what we say on this finger? This finger is 16. Just the same as the last finger. So I want to hang 8 stitches on this side. There's 6, 7, and 8. Then I want to hang 8 stitches on this side. Whoops. Gotta be careful how I'm pulling it up here, because the further I pull this one out, the more this next stitch wants to hide. 2, 3. You have to be careful not to knock your stitches off. 4, 5. You know what? We're just going to have to deal with the bunk. Because when we get around to, oh hey, why won't that go? Ta-da! Still won't go. There we go. So what we're going to have to do is hang them and have that junk. So we're going to hang, let's see. Nope, I gotta go like this. I'm gonna hang it like this because my finger's gonna be in the middle. I still don't want to pull that stitch very, very hard, but since I pulled those, does that make sense? Are you with me? Are you for me or are you against me? Don't hang it backwards. It makes it much easier to grab these stitches, but you do have to deal with this stuff down here, this waste yarn. You know, is my phone just not working today? Oh, look, you're right, it's not. Okay, got a questions. Nancy and Jane are watching. Hi, guys. Miss you. Sandy is watching. Will I be able to do this on a 72? You could do it on a 72 if you have a really big hand, because a 72 is going to make a really large tube. You wouldn't want to do it on a 72. You want to do it on the 60 and the 54 and the 64 are nice because it makes this fit. Does that make sense? Did you get it? Okay, so here we are still hanging stitches, and so far, I think that one decided to hang itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Six. That's where your pick is so important. 7 and 8, because you don't really want to hang the yellow waste yarn. Okay, so there's 8. Steal a stitch, so it ended up being 9. I've got one hung over here. Boy, in a perfect world, you just do it perfect. I've been teaching a couple this week from Washington, and so I showed them how to make I-cord, and I was just zipping around making I-cord, not even thinking, and they sat down to make I-cord, and guess what? They would drop stitches right and left. And I forget that I already know how to do this, so I need to slow down and do it so where you can do it, learn how to do it so that you can do it fast too. But what does my mother always say? You have to be prepared to do something very badly before you can do it very good, very well. How's that? She was also an English person. I hope she isn't watching, and I don't think there's much danger of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, stealing a stitch. Now don't forget, we have to anchor this stitch. So I'm going to take the bar from this stitch and cross it over to this one. And the bar from this stitch, cross it over to that one. And I also want to take a moment to thank Deb Oswald. She's the one who showed me how to do this. And you know Deb, she's the one that showed me how to do Deb's Fast and Easy Heel. Oh, Ron, it's just so hot in here. I want to thank Deb Oswald. She goes, you want to know how to do a glove? Sure. And she just sat down and she did the glove. It was so easy. Is this not easy? It's just fiddly. You can do this. It's not that difficult. It is fiddly. Don't be in a hurry when you're trying to do it. Okay. Give myself enough of a tail to knit together so we keep all those yarns from hanging around. Okay, this one's up. We're ready to go. Now, remember there's all this bunk in there, so these stitches are going to have a hard time knitting. I want to go ahead and hang my weight, except that I've lost my V-hook. Now how could I lose something just sitting here? I haven't gotten up. Where'd it go? I don't have another one. Seriously, oh, look, ta-da. All right, get my weight on there. So I have that downward pressure since I've got all these other things to worry about. All those stitches. Oh, they all knit that time, yay! So there's 1, 2. Get this little fella ready. Actually, not yet, we'll come back around here. Something's funky there, so we'll just cover that up by lifting the needle so everything knits. Okay, watching those stitches. 3, 4, whoops, come back around here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I want to say something about hand tensioning. I hold my hand up here the whole time, but I'm only holding it taut for the first stitch and the first stitch. You can hold this hand tension tighter than what this tension makes it. So you've got to, all you're wanting to do is make sure that first needle knits, and then the yarn will make the rest of the needles knit. So you just want to hold it taut for the first needle and then kind of release the tension, or else you'll make tighter tension than what you would have had if you would have used the heel spring. All right. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and engage the heel spring so we can just go back and forth easily. But remember, we want to kind of tighten these stitches because we don't want them to be flopping all over the place. So when this comes back around, I want to be sure, catch this yarn, just get in that hole like that so that stitch stays a little tighter. I'm going to go about 10 rows. Cut it with a short tail. And can you believe it? That's our third finger. We only have one more finger to go. All right. And it's the pinky, and it's like the first one. You just make a panel, make a panel. These are the two tricky ones that you have to anchor, and you have to take stitches from either side of the roundness. So this is like a flat panel, this is like a flat panel. So all we have to do is hang these 11 stitches that are left, or is it, nope, it's 11 stitches that we have left. Then we're going to steal 2 stitches. We can go ahead and steal that one right now. Maybe. Stealing makes these other ones want to hide, so maybe that wasn't such a good idea. Ooh, you know what? Daryl has been working on a new tool that's going to have a needle without a latch on one end. It's the perfect hook size. There we go. I can grab that baby. He can run, but he can't hide. If you people weren't watching this, it'd take just 1 second. Okay, I got some yellow in there because I'm getting a little frustrated with that blue yarn. 2, 3, 4. I don't even need to count. Well, yes, knowing me and my counting skills, I need to count and count again. Get that yellow yarn back out of there. Turkey. Okay, let's see, where's my, that's not it. Getting in there, getting in a little hurry. Where is the mother for this stitch? There's the stitch. Yeah, it was. Right there. Are you getting this, Ron? Because I sure can't pay attention to you and knit this at the same time. It was right there. Okay. So there's our pinky with our 2 stolen stitches. Get this out of the way. Come back here, and then we're going to work on this finger, and after that, we're going to do a little finish work so we get it all looking good. Okay, I want to go ahead and hang my weight. Get all those stitches to knit. 2. Knit this tail in. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Up, I did 12 on all the rows, but you need to just do 2 less on the pinky because it's shorter. So that's 10 stitches. We're going to cut that, switch to waste yarn, or 10 rows, not 10 stitches. And then we're going to and remember, I can go ahead and engage my heel spring. And I forgot to knit that in. So that last stitch is just going to be real loose in there. We'll have to remember that when we're closing it off. I'll have to pull it up tight so that it doesn't turn into a big loop on the outside of my glove finger. Okay, take that off the machine. Now, since I already have, well, let's just look at what we did. And this yarn is very stiff. All right, and I have this one off the machine. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove our lifeline. Now I can unwind it from here if I want. Or if I'm confident that I didn't get any yellow in those stitches, I can pull up a leg from down here and pull on it. But I think that I want to go ahead and try to get it off like this, because I don't want to pull any loose stitches if I don't have to, or make any loose stitches if I don't have to. So it's all getting tangled up, but I'm going to pull the 4 fingers loose out of there, and I'm just going to cheat, cut most of this off, get it out of our way. I'll leave it in here for the cooking lady, who I share studio space with. No, I clean up my mess. I try to be a good little knitter and studio space sharer. All right, so look at that, people. Is that beautiful? Okay, so we just removed the lifeline. I know, oddly enough, I know where my darning needle is. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a back stitch bind off, and I'll start with the big finger. We're not going to do all these fingers together, but I want you to see how I finish off one finger. Alright, I try not to split my yarn when I'm threading the needle. I know it's kind of crazy, and I've just made a huge mess. Imagine that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this snug, get my tail out of the way, pull this snug. I'm going to go through the second stitch, then I'm going to go through the first stitch, something is dreadfully wrong with this yarn. I think I just took a ply out of it. Okay. We're going to go on to another finger. We'll have to go back to that one. Okay. We're going to go pull this snug so that first stitch isn't loose. Remember, we had that. We're going to go through this second one and then the first one and pull through, trying to keep that little bitty yellow tail out of the way. Then we're going to go to the third stitch to the second stitch. Fourth to third, fifth to fourth, six to five. I don't have to keep counting, do I? You know, I do such a bad job at that. How we doing on time, Ron? I have to check on him every once in a while in case he's falling asleep in there. Maybe he ran out to mow. Because when I'm so involved in this, I can't pay attention to him. How's your ticker, Ron? Your ticker. Did you bike 400 miles? I can't hear you. He's been on this bike trip. He's supposed to be filming it. Lake Erie. It was the Erie Canal, right? So from where did you start? Albany? What? Buffalo to Albany. Doesn't that song go like 16 miles on the Erie Canal? 60? Alright, so I backstitch bound off. I'm going to pull that yellow yarn out. You can tell it got caught, but I'm just pulling because I'm running out of time here. Remember, we've got to finish this first stitch and complete our bind off. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Now, if you are really, really patient and you can do the mattress stitch, but it's really tricky because you have to get on that curled side, and you can do that, or you can just whip stitch with the first stitch, because I'm looking again for as much length or girth, I guess that would be girth, wouldn't it, as I can get around these stitches to get all the way around the finger. All right. Yikes. Sticking my finger in there to kind of help me see those stitches. But don't worry, I'm not going to drag you through all 4 fingers. Now, remember, we have to do some tightening down in here, some anchoring, so that we don't have as much space in between. Then I'm going to come back up and I'm going to hide this tail in the leg of one of these rows. See how I do that? Now, this is where the rubber meets the road, people. Cut my tail. That finger fits perfect. What do you think? Can you see it on the inside? This seam is over here. That's probably the piece of it, that's the tail, and we can pull that out and snip that off because that was the tail from where we knit the 2 yarns together. There's the seam. So there's the finger. Now, you guys don't want to watch me do all 4 of these fingers, but golly geez, I'm really happy with that one. Thank you for joining me today on Sock TV, where we made this really awesome glove. The glove. And I hope you learned something.